What has kept many of us awake and talking is the price hikes in fuel prices, that's products at the pumps, over the last 6 weeks, I say since we began this year, 2022. Fuel prices have seen consistent increases over time. Now, the structure and nature of our economy is such that when prices of petroleum products go up, it affects almost everything on the market. Essentially, because fuel prices or fuel powers the economy. That's why transport fares will go up. And when it does, it will equally affect everything on the market. The Ghana Private Road Transport Union will be joining us as we go on the conversation this evening. In Ghana, there are three main factors that affect the pricing of fuel in this country. And they are the world crude oil price, that's the price of crude oil on the world market, the weak nature of the cedi, that's the depreciation of the cedi against the major trading currencies, and the taxes imposed on petroleum products by government. These are the three main factors that influences pricing of petroleum products at the pumps. So now you know. Let's take a look at this. I'll take time to analyze all these three factors. First of all, the local currency. Across the 7 cities marked to $1 last week on the retail market with less than 2 months into 2022. Now, our checks at some forex bureau and commercial banks indicate that $1 was sold at a little above 7 cities. Now, the city's predicament has been largely attributed to the uncertainty about Ghana's fiscal outlook, despite interventions by the Bank of Ghana. I'm going to show you right now how the cedi is trading against the major trading currencies. Lack of confidence in Ghanaian economy as well by some investors has also fueled selling of some of the country's international bonds, whilst demands for the dollar for imports also keeps rising. Now, due to this, the cedi has depreciated, we understand, by a little over 5% to $1 and still ranks it as the second worst performing currency on the continent so far this year. This according to data from Databank. You can find it. Now, the situation could compel the central bank to introduce additional measures to contain the rapid fall of the local currency. In fact, though much work needs to be done by managers of the fiscal economy to reassure investors that revenue will be boosted, whilst rising debt will be tamed. So far, you've seen measures that have been put in place, as announced earlier, with expenditure cuts and others. But the Databank research has also said in its 2022 quarterly outlook report that conditions that triggered the depreciation of the cedi in the last quarter of last year, 2021, will actually persist until the first half of the year. Meanwhile, the value of the cedi does not improve, then businesses, particularly manufacturing, that depend so much on imports for production, will have to revise their budgets, while prices of some goods on the market as well will go up because of imported inflation. Now, I'm going to show you what the Ghana Statistical Service put out as far as inflation is concerned. The rising cost of housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels constitute about 28.7%, as well as transportation, 17.4%, pushed the rate of inflation for January 2022 to 13.9%. This is the Ghana Statistical Service data that you see there. You can find it on the website. Now, if the trend continues from what we are seeing now, if the trend continues, lending rates as well as cost of living will go up further. Now, the Monetary Policy Committee is expected to announce the policy rate in the coming weeks. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, food inflation also recorded a rate of 13.7%, higher than both last month's rate, 12.8%, and the average of the previous month, 10.4%. This is specific now to the first factor that influences the prices of petroleum products at the pumps. That's the currency or the currency differentials. Now we've seen the health of the cedi against the major trading currencies. The second factor that influences prices of petroleum products at the pumps is the prices of crude oil on the world market. Now, Ghana still depends largely on imported crude to meet the crude oil needs, since oil is an integral part of the economy. This dependency makes most macroeconomic indicators such as inflation, the Ghanaian economy vulnerable to fluctuations in the world market price of crude oil. Now, because of the state of our refinery as well, we are not able to refine the crude that we are producing internally, which is also another matter altogether, because we see that initially government put together an interim management committee for TOR. We don't know what's happening with the Tamale refinery, whether really plans have been put in place to revive the fortunes of the refinery, so at least to refine the sweet light crude that we produce in this country. Now, as net exporters of crude, there's little we can do about the happenings on the world market, except to say if the prices of crude on the world market goes up, government gets more revenue because we're exporting. It's selling above $90. Now, look at the Bloomberg website. Go on the Bloomberg website. You see it now. That's what's there. According to the Bloomberg website, a barrel of crude oil is selling at $90 per barrel, way above what government projected in the 2022 budget. That you'll see on the website. Now, the question is, can the excess money that government is getting be used to cushion Ghanaians against the impact of the rising prices of crude oil on the world market? Because now at $90, $91, projected about $61 thereabout in the 2022 budget. That is what's happening on the world market. So prices of crude oil on the world market is the second factor that influences the prices of petroleum products at the pumps. The third is the prices of petroleum products and the impact of taxes and levies. The impact of taxes and levies put on the prices of petroleum products at the pumps is the third determining factor. Taxes. Take a look at this. When you go onto the pumps to buy a liter of petrol or diesel, here are the taxes and levies on it. A liter of petrol and diesel, energy debt recovery levy, 49 pesos. Road fund levy, 48 pesos. Energy fund levy, 1 peso. Price stabilization and recovery levy, 14 pesos. Sanitation and pollution levy, 10 pesos. Energy sector recovery levy, 20 pesos. Special petroleum tax, 46 pesos per liter. Primary distribution margin, 11 pesos. Boss margin, 9 pesos. Fuel market margin, 5 pesos. Marketers margin, 46 pesos. And dealers, that's retailers and operators margin, a little over 30 pesos per liter. These are the taxes you see, about 12 of them. Now, if you add all the pesos that I've just run through with the margins and levies, the total of the taxes on a liter of petrol or diesel, which you buy at the pumps, which is selling at 7 cedis, between 7 cedis, 10 pesos, and 7 cedis, 99 pesos, depending on the filling station or the oil marketing company that you buy from. 4 cedis, 25 pesos on a liter of petrol or diesel makes up the taxes. The total margins and levies on a liter of petrol selling at 7 cedis, 99 pesos, or 7 cedis, 10 pesos thereabout. 4 cedis, 25 pesos is the total of the taxes and levies on it. Now, out of this, the 12 levies and margins I outlined earlier, government takes 10, the money accruing to 10 of them. Then the dealers take the dealer's margin and the marketers take the marketer's margin. So if you take the 46 pesos and 30 pesos for the marketers and dealers margin respectively, out of the total of 4 cedis, 25 pesos, you get 3 cedis, 48 pesos. That's what goes to government per liter. Out of the petrol and diesel price of 7 cedis, 99 pesos at the pumps. So about almost 50% of the 7 cedis, 99 pesos is made up of taxes and levies. Now, let's look at the margins and levies earlier. Questions have been raised about what government can do because this is within our control. What can be reduced or removed to at least reduce the burden and the impact of petroleum prices on the consuming public or the Ghanaian? The special petroleum tax, energy debt recovery levy, that's where Tamara friend, the toll recovery debt levy is. The price stabilization and recovery levy of 14 pesos was suspended about 3 months between November, December, January. It has been restored. Can this be removed? The sanitation and pollution levy, which was introduced after COVID. These are the questions that have been raised about the impact of taxes and levies. Special petroleum tax, which was introduced when crude oil prices went down as much as $20 a barrel sometime in 2014. Government introduced this to show up revenue. It's still in the price buildup. Can government take a look at this? These are the questions that are being raised. But this makes up the total taxes and levies and its impact on the price of crude oil on the world market. This is just to give you a clear picture of what the situation looks like. I sat with the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies. But before that, let me welcome John Jinapor, who is a member of Parliament and then also the ranking member of Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee. Join us on this conversation this evening. Mr. Jinapor, good evening to you. Thank you for your time this evening. John Jinapor is joining us via Zoom. He is a ranking member on Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee. With this picture that has been painted and the impact that the taxes and levies are having on the pricing of petroleum products at the pumps, what can be done to reduce the burden on the Ghanaian? Mr. Jinapor, good evening to you. Thank you for your time this evening.
Good evening, thank you very much.
Great. Now, earlier I ran through the 12 margins and levies in the price buildup. Government is also making more than it projected in the budget. Now, as we showed our viewers, the barrel of crude oil is selling at $91 per barrel as per the Bloomberg website. Where can government look to reduce the impact of the rising prices of petroleum products at the pumps on the Ghanaian? At least reduce that impact on the Ghanaian. Mr. Jinapor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Like you said, first of all, if you read the budget statement, I referred to specifically paragraph 287. The minister did say that the benchmark price was estimated at 61.23 barrels. That is what the minister projected. And so all our benchmark revenues and our budget is projected on 61. Today, crude oil is over $90. In fact, based on what is even happening today, because of the geopolitical tension between Russia, the West, vis-a-vis Ukraine, you should expect that crude oil price would not be coming down anytime soon. And so, like you rightly said, what is Ghana doing? First of all, we are making a huge windfall, because if you look at 61 to 100, that represents a 60% jump. That is over 60% jump in terms of the revenues that we are expecting. And so clearly, we're making some very, very, very huge windfalls, which we can use to cushion the ordinary Ghanaian. The other issue is that if you look at the taxes on petroleum products, the taxes are so huge, and not just the number of taxes, but the rate at which they've increased them. In 2021, I think so, that's it, we introduced what we call the Energy Sector Recovery Levy, pollution levy, increased the ESLA component, increased the price stabilization and recovery levy. And so all those increments culminated in petroleum prices increment of about 13.6% instantly. So far, the boss margin is gone up by about 200%. The UPPF is gone up by about 200%. Fuel marking is gone up by about 200%. Dealers margin, I mean, it's just a plethora of taxes. So I think that government can do something by looking at the windfall that we have and temporarily cushion Ghanaians. When the price was about 70, government indicated that the price was too high. And so they suspended the price stabilization and recovery levy, albeit that they didn't even come to parliament. But now that it's over 90, they are reintroducing that very tax. If you look at the ESLA account from 2016 to date, that money should have accumulated over 2.2 billion. The essence of the price stabilization and recovery levy is to cushion us in difficult moments like this. I have looked at the expenditure pattern, and I can confirm that based on the expenditure, only 1 billion has been spent. So the question is, where is the potential additional 1 billion? Where is that money? At least if we can't do anything, why can't we use the money from the price stabilization and recovery levy to cushion Ghanaians? Because that is why we brought the price stabilization and recovery levy. It is supposed to accumulate money, invest that money in an interest yielding account, so that when we have challenges like we have now, we can fall on the price stabilization and recovery levy. So clearly, government has lost it. Government has run out of ideas. And it does appear that anytime there's an increment, they pass it on to Ghanaians. The last one has to do with what we call the exchange rate. Today, the cedi is falling at an astronomical rate. It's just beyond imagination. And anytime the cedi falls, even when world market prices are static or falling, depending on the weight of the price buildup vis-a-vis the exchange rate, you are unable to even reduce prices, and it will even lead to a higher price. And this is a job of the economic management team. The Bank of Ghana did indicate that they were releasing some hundreds of millions of dollars. What has happened to that? Look at how the cedi is falling. The final one is, I think that we should look at all. We have crude oil here in Ghana. We produce about 180,000 barrels per day, close to 200,000. That alone is more than enough to meet our daily demand. TOR can process about 65,000 barrels of crude every day. I do admit that TOR has challenges, but that is why people are voted into power. We are voted into power to solve those challenges. So I think the government should turn an eye towards TOR. We cannot allow TOR to be in its current state. Something must be done about it so that we can process our own crude and then feed the domestic market. That will also bring some cushion. These are the areas that I think government ought to be looking at.
The last time I checked, the government has instituted an interim management committee to oversee the operations of the Tamale refinery. They put together a report. Some names were put out in the media as having been implicated for some malfeasance. You are a ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. Has the Interim Management Committee of Tamale Refinery presented any turnaround plan for you?
No. The Parliament is due to meet all these agencies between February and March, and I'm sure that will come up. The point is that interim management committees normally would not have the power of a substantive management. So I thought that by now, TOR should have a substantive management. I don't think that interim management can do any good job. If they are good, appoint them into substantive positions, give them their various roles and tasks. Moreover, government did announce in 2018 that it was going to turn Toma Oil Refinery into a tank farm. We haven't heard of any change in position. So even the TOR itself, government is not committed to retooling, revamping, and making TOR a viable refinery. What government did indicate was that they were going to build a new refinery at Takoradi within 3 years, 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. Nothing has happened. So far, nothing has happened in respect of the oil refinery. They've been taking money for a petrochemical hub. The petroleum hub, nothing has happened so far. So clearly, you don't even know government's game plan. What is government's long-term objective in terms of refinery within the country? You can't tell. I mean, it's so haphazard, it's so difficult, and you just can't even understand what exactly is government's game plan as far as the petroleum sector is concerned. And let me tell you, these issues are not going to stop now. Russia is bent on pushing its agenda. The West is also digging in. And the more they engage in this banter, the further and higher petroleum prices would go. Since assuming office, this government hasn't added any oil resources to what they inherited. They inherited the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, Kufuor, and Atta Mills, 3 oil fields. In 6 years, as I speak to you, nothing has happened so far. And so clearly, I find it very difficult to understand what this government really wants to do with our petroleum sector. They tried the ExxonMobil agreement, it's failed. They tried the ACE agreement, it's failed. Virtually everything, they tried to do some bidding round, it failed. And so you're just asking yourself, so what are you doing? What is your game plan? Because you must have a vision, you must have a strategy, and then you must have a tactical way of achieving that overall objective. But if you don't have an objective, if you don't have a vision as to what you want to achieve, it becomes very, very difficult to implement policies and programs towards achieving that objective.
So as it stands now, no turnaround plan, but the Ghanaian people will have to continue paying for the losses and inefficiencies that are to my refinery, unfortunately, because it is in the price build-up.
Unfortunately, that is what we are witnessing. And if you look at the amount that has gone so far into the toll recovery levy, in fact, the energy sector levies alone is generated almost 18 billion. That is a huge amount, 18 billion. In fact, if we had even ring-fenced all this money and decided that we're building a new refinery, which should have been done by now, because the minister indicated they needed 3 billion to build a refinery, even if you do an exchange rate of 6 at that time. That means that we could have borrowed some 18 billion into a special purpose vehicle and have a brand new refinery that could process 150,000 barrels, more than even our daily consumption capacity, and we could export the rest. So clearly, I find it problematic. I want to see government's blueprint, government strategy document as far as refinery is concerned. What is the game plan? That's what all of us should be asking government for. I mean, it can't just be business as usual. And, you know, transport operators are already threatening to increase their fares by 30%. Already inflation is around 13.6%. And transportation is a major component in the CPI. That is the consumer price index in terms of the weighted averages.
Right.
Because when transport fares goes up, it has a cascading effect. So we are really headed for very, very difficult times. Government is also planning to introduce the reversal of the benchmark values. Government is bent on introducing the e-levy. And so clearly, and also planning to increase fees and charges by most government agencies by a minimum of 15%. So when you look at the future, it looks very, very bleak. And all of us must be prepared for very, very difficult times ahead.
If you look at the taxes and levies in the price build-up, in your view, as a ranking member on Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee, which one should government touch or take a look at to at least reduce the impact that this fuel price hikes is having on the Ghanaian? So energy debt recovery levy, road fund levy, energy fund levy, price stabilization and recovery levy, sanitation and pollution levy, energy sector recovery levy, special petroleum tax, primary distribution margin, boss margin, fuel market margin, marketers margin, dealers margin. Which one?
Well, I don't want to do nitpicking, but let me just give you one example. The boss margin, I think, has been increased from 3 to 9 cedi. That's a 200% increment. BOST is supposed to keep strategic stocks for a minimum of 12 weeks. What they are supposed to do is to look through the window and buy these stocks when prices are low, so that when they go high, they can release it into the market through the BDCs. So what is BOST doing with that money? Don't we deserve to know? What are they doing with all these huge monies they're collecting? Because every liter you buy, you pay 9 pesos to BOST. Then we must as well just scrap BOST if they have no value, if they have no use. So what are they doing? I think that's a legitimate question. The price stabilization and recovery levy, even if you won't scrap it, that levy has accrued some monies. Where are those monies? The road fund is accrued, I think, 6 billion. Now check the figures. They've gotten less than half of that amount under the so-called capping and realignment. The minister is taking about 50% of that money for other purposes. non-road related. So even the application of the levies, the application of the funds accruing from all these taxes, they are not accounting for them properly, and they are not utilizing those revenues for their intended purposes. And that is creating a major, major problem.
General, finally, you see, you are a ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee. So when you ask questions of the boss margin, for instance, what is being done, the Ghanaian people need to know what these monies that we are paying for when we buy fuel is being used for. What has the committee been told about what this boss margin is being used for?
The committee is meeting boss in, I think on the 24th or 28th. I'm not a chairman, I'm the ranking member. The chairman calls the committee meetings just like the speaker summons or calls parliamentary meetings. We've made our representations made to him, and he's confirmed that we are meeting. Bear in mind, we are not the board of TOR. We are not the ministry. We are a supervising agency, and we meet periodically and sparingly. We don't meet frequently, unlike a board that will meet, or the government, which is the ministry that can always meet them. Ours is at the end of the year, usually we'll go through their records, their books. And so the year is ended, and under the audit system, they have the first quarter within which to prepare all these accounts. And we're trying to meet them within the first quarter. So when we meet them, we would be looking at their records, we'll be looking at their audited accounts. We'll do a lot of questioning, a lot of auditing. And if we need to make some recommendations, we would do that. And so when we do that, as ranking member and my team, we would be briefing you, the media, and we'll make our observations known to you.
And we certainly will appreciate it. But as it stands now, the Ghanaian people will have to brace ourselves up for tougher times.
Certainly, because I just don't see any proactive step from government. I think that also government must be communicating. It does appear that this government is been very quiet in respect of these petroleum issues. There's a minister there. I think there are three deputies, if my memory says three deputy ministers of energy. So 4 of them there with their spokespersons. At least they should be talking to the Ghanaian people. They should give us some assurance and at least let the economy and industry know exactly what they intend doing. Even the electricity sector, they've just increased some new charges, some as much as about 1,800%, some as much as 740%, without even informing the public. All we are witnessing is that ECG has started implementing those charges. I mean, you can't govern like that. That's unacceptable. But we'll keep pushing. We will advocate. We'll use parliamentary tools and processes to ensure that questions are answered. And if we need to dig and probe further, we'll certainly do that.
Jenapo, I thank you so much for your time this evening. I appreciate your company, as always. John Abdullahi Jenapo is a ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. He is a member of Parliament for Yape Kuseu constituency, joining us on Zoom, answering the questions on the minds of you, the Ghanaian people, and the picture that I painted clearly before he joined us. I'm going to go for this quick break. When I'm back, the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, AOMCs, will be speaking about what we're seeing now with fuel price hikes. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to Business Focus on TV3. I spoke to the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, Kweku Ajiman, that's Dia, on how the next pricing window is looking like. Take a look. All right, Mr. Ajiman, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with us. So, what are the causes of these recent increases we're seeing in petroleum prices at the pumps?
You know, for the last 7 years, it's the first time ever the crude oil price has crossed $93 per barrel. $93 for the last 7 years. So that tells you something. That even if you don't do anything, the fact that the crude oil price is going up, has gone up astronomically high in the last 7 years, tells you that your final product will go up. And as if that is not enough, our CD dollar exchange rate is not too good. You know, unfortunately, at this time that we are just after Espas, you could see that normally January, December, January, we tend to have this winter thing. By February, the prices are going now. Now it's taken up because of all this barrel matter. You know, the other aspect is, of course, that ends up with the supply demand issues. You know, the OPEC people are playing that game again, where they realize that they want to cut down the supply and make all this hula baloo about this electric vehicle thing. They think it's going to dim the demand for the fuel products. So obviously, they also want to make some saving, so that when it comes to the time that you people have converted to electric vehicles, they'll make money, because that's the only resource they have.
Okay, so if Ghana is a net exporter of crude, it means that if we're seeing crude oil prices going up $93 a barrel, the highest in the last 70 years, it means government is making money. So is there any justification for the decision to restore the price stabilization and recovery levy, adding about 16 pesos on every liter that we buy, and 14 pesos on LPG as well?
You see, the price stabilization levy is also a source of finance for the subsidized of premise fuel. So if you take it off completely, what it means is that you will not have enough money to be able to subsidize the premise fuel. And again, the BDCs on the other side who supply the gasoline for the mixing of the premise fuel will also not get their money. So I'm sure the period that we're off, government couldn't have enough money to be able to do that. I think that's why they have brought it back. So, and even bringing it back, and if you take it off, look at the rate at which the price is going up. It does not really give the required effect. It's only 10 pesos. And given what is going, like right now we are 7.4, 7.5, we'll soon hit the 8. Yes, I mean, the way, if you consider, because it's been predicted that we'll hit the $100 mark of the barrel. So we are going to hit that one. Obviously, the refined products will move up. It looks like, because of the fact that the rate at which the crude oil price is going up is so high, so fast, it has caught us, really. And coupled with our tastes and preferences for foreign goods, our city-dollar relationship will also becoming so bad. So, for me, at this point in time, it's the time for us to think through our strategy for this. There are various options, but it seems to be medium long term. It cannot be immediate, because if you look at the price build-up, the taxes also, which have been earmarked over they call the Bola levy, and the other levies, sanitation levy, other levy, they have been encumbered for particular projects. And this is part of the budget. So you go and take them off, obviously your project will suffer. Now, Nigeria, for instance, have got a lot of money. And if you follow the news, they have put about $7.3 billion to mitigate the present pressure of the price increase for the public. With 7.3 billion, it's almost like our budget. You can imagine that. So it's good that government should help us around this time. The question is, where is the money going to come from?
But you just outlined a number of the taxes and levies, the margins on the price build-up. I count about 11 of them or so. In your view, which one of them should go? Has outlived its youthfulness that the Ghanaian people are paying for?
I can't tell offhand. You know, the nature of our job, my job is, it doesn't go beyond that mandate. For me, it's for us to implement what has been approved by Parliament. But you see, all that we have to ask for is accountability of those ones, which I know in the media budgets, government normally talk about how much is accrued in the various funds. And if you go back and look at them, you find them in there. But the question is, we have to ask ourselves, like sanitation levy, what is involved? What are we expecting? Is it the normal clearing out of our frontage or our houses? If we can do that, obviously that one can go off. But if it's something like to bring equipment to work on the refuse and that kind of thing, that would be a different, that's a capital intensive thing, which you have to accrue funds for. The other one are the taxes. You know, we are not happy about the taxes and all that. They become a heavy burden on the price build-up. It's about 40% of it. And unfortunately for us, we are the collecting agents for that. So if we are squeezed so much, we have to, it eats into our margin. That's why when it eats into our margin, we also will not be able to pay the tax that we have collected for you and me. Then we also default the taxes.
That's Kwekwa Jimendia talking about the fact that 40% of the fuel cost per litre at the pumps is all taxes. The conversation continues of what government should do and can do. But thank you so much for your time this evening here on Business Focus. Stay with us as we get into News 360. I am Alfred Okanse. On behalf of the rest of the team, do have a good evening.